I think we have to address the legacy of this, the legacy of contamination, and not let it continue. If we don't do it, no one will. And the next generation, what are we leaving them? And I think time's running out. Time's running out. My name's Sharon Todd. I've been a resident of the Claxton community all of my life, except for a brief 3 years when my spouse was in the military. And that's been over 60 years. It has a very rich history, and I love it because it's a small community. The people are good people. I've lived there my whole life, and it just feels it's home. I live in the country. I live on a mountain. My favorite places are to be at home in the woods where I live. I'm fortunate enough to live in a place where we have a lot of trees. We actually have a historic cave on our property that's connected to Cherokee Caverns and also connected to the cave over at the proposed storage site for Bull Run. The Bull Run plant has been there for many years. The community got the benefit from a reasonable prices and electricity rates from TVA. It's been a tortured relationship at times. I have power lines across my property, so I deal with that on a daily basis. Also, I have water lines across my property, a joint project between Hallsdale Powell and West Knox Utility District. They usually run underground utilities along power lines, so you can't build on them. So I've got water from the lake and I've got electric lines across my property, so I feel intimately involved in both processes. My biggest frustration is the lack of, I think they call it transparency now, with TDEC, TVA, and not getting information. We're not getting answers that we need. They're not being very forthright with what they found and what they're doing. And the plant is literally located, there is a mobile home park, a housing project, and a playground and a church just right next to the plant. And there's a lot at stake here. People's lives have been impacted by this. And going forward, I would like to see TVA be the good neighbor they claim to be and do something for the community. When they put the scrubbers on the plant, that got rid of most of the air pollution, but it didn't disappear. It went into the coal ash, into the ground, and then into the water. So it's still there, but it's in a different form. It's very shocking. I think most of the people in the community assume Bull Run feeds into Melton Hill, which feeds into the Clinch. So most people were operating under the assumption that Bull Run was clean because it was upstream. Well, it's not. They found those same contaminants upstream that they did down there. So that's very disturbing because people would say, oh, you can eat the fish out of Bull Run Stream, but not Melton Hill. So apparently you can't eat the fish out of any of them now. So it's very disturbing, distressing. We have a lot of foul wildlife. We have geese. I have family members that have flocks of geese and their young on the property. There are beavers there. There's all sorts of wildlife. It's a place that needs to be preserved. I think it should be regulated. We don't want to be another Flint, Michigan. We shouldn't be another Flint, Michigan, and we should have clean water. I would hope our elected officials would want the community to have clean water. The two utility districts, Hallsdale Powell serves many thousands of people. West Knox has 65,000 customers. Now that doesn't say how many people are in the households. But I would say the water from Melton Hill probably serves up to 200,000 people. So clean drinking water is something that ought to be federally regulated. Whatever it takes to keep the water clean, whatever it takes to keep the water clean and get rid of the radioactive elements. You know, that's not been addressed. They're talking about testing for heavy metals, but radioactivity is 10 times that in coal ash as it is in nuclear waste. So there are a lot of things that the government needs to do to regulate to ensure the safety of the residents of Anderson County and of other counties that are drinking the water. They talked about the American Nuclear Corporation site that's literally 10 minutes up the road across Edgemore. And when the gentleman from TDEC, he was asked what the half-life was, what it would take to get it to background radiation, he said 300 years. We don't have 300 years. The community doesn't have 300 years. And coal ash is more radioactive than nuclear waste. So it's critical. Something needs to be done. The federal government needs to intervene, clean up all these sites, and make the places livable. Lake City, which is now known as Rocky Top, was once known as Coal Creek. So there was coal mining there, very extensive coal mining. And there was a mine disaster there many years ago, and people realized they had looked at them as ignorant, almost subhuman people. And when they found the letters they wrote after they died, they published them in papers up east, and people read it. And a lot of them were Welsh miners. They were from all over the world. They were from Romania, and they wrote letters to their loved ones. They thought they were ignorant people, and they were portrayed as that, and they showed them that they were human beings. It led to some change. So it has a long history. So I guess that's what I would like, for TVA to treat the people of this region like they're human beings with decency and respect. Part of Anderson County, New River, Lake City, now Rocky Top, doesn't have much industry. They kept holding on for the hopes of jobs. And at some point, it's going to be gone. And it's a shame when it's something like that leaves the area, there's just a vacuum and there's nothing that comes back. Wherever seems like coal has been mined, they leave that behind. They leave a legacy of contamination, poverty, and they do nothing to right that. The Kingston disaster was a bellwether. We should have paid better attention. The same thing happened at Widow's Creek 3 weeks after Kingston, but it didn't make much press because Kingston was the big story. What happened in Kingston should never have happened, and then we're seeing the fallout, the people who've passed. Are they up to 60 people who've died since then? It's a tragedy, and it should never happen in this country. It should never have happened. They were doing things wrong. They were doing things incorrectly, and I worry about the future plans of them building a nuclear plant up on the Clinch. It worries me. There was even some scandals along the way where they were going to bring prisoners there from Memphis to work in the mines. I found where they had another abandoned nuclear plant in some small town in Tennessee, and they put a corrections facility there. Well, you go to a small town that has no jobs, so they put a corrections facility there. And you've got the one up at Phipps Bend, the abandoned nuclear site, and they put a small wind farm, and the bats are up there in the old infrastructure. So they need to change their mission statement, I believe, and be more responsible, and have someone to answer to, and not just be doing these random things and walking away and leaving a legacy of contamination for generations to come. They need to do the right thing and get the money out of their pockets. I'd like to see something at the site, in a safe site, not something with radioactive material under it. I would like to see maybe housing. When TVA bought the property around the steam plant to put the coal ash on, they pulled the permit for that. People have voiced to me they don't want to see that property go to someone who will profit from it, who will scoop it up and do something. They would like to see it go back to a community-based thing. Housing, daycares, something of that ilk. And that's part of what I think should be TVA's good neighbor. Show you're a good neighbor, just don't talk about it, don't put out the glossy ads, do it. Clean the site up, put something there that will help the community. People came from all over the world up in La Follette. It was an international community. They had people from all over the world working in the mines there. So it has a very diverse history, as does Anderson County. We've got everything from the coal mining communities to Oak Ridge. I dare you to find a county that diverse in most places. You've heard of the blues singer Louis Armstrong?
Yes.
Okay, well, he knew various languages because they would sing for all the miners up there. They were Polish, they were German. It has a very diverse culture. Claxon is a small community that is between Powell and South Clinton. It encompasses 25W, off of 25W, goes down Edgemore Road and up the valleys, Raccoon Valley, Strader Road, a lot of little side roads. At one time, several years ago, many years ago, my car broke down the road and probably half a dozen people stopped to help me. I've grown up around most of them, and I can go up and they say, oh, you're so-and-so, yeah, and you're so-and-so son. It's a sense of community. You know, if you get that in a subdivision, it's a wonderful place to live. There have always been good people there, and they just want to be treated fairly. They're not asking for anything that is out of the ordinary. They've been maligned in many senses. And the people up in the abandoned coal fields up in Lake City and New River, a lot of them want to be left alone. You know, they don't want to be bothered. They're good people. They're sincere. I talk with a lot of people in the community. I'm not a Facebook fan. I'm not on Facebook. I talk one-on-one with a lot of people in the community the old-fashioned way. I'm kind of old school, and that's how I communicate. And I tell them what goes on, and I encourage them to attend the meetings. And as you know, when we had the huge turnout prior to the COVID, they did show up. They do care. They do care. I love Appalachia. My sister, I've got sisters that live in Honolulu and Houston, and my sister in Houston misses it every day. She said, I miss the neighborhood. I miss being in the country. I lived away for 3 years, and I lived in Arkansas, and I said if I ever get back to the mountains, I will never leave again. And I never have, except for brief vacations. And I was always happy to get home off of them.